All right, so welcome to finding off-market homes for buyers and getting your contracts accepted. So we'll do the contract accepted part at the end. I'll be looking for some insight and input from some of you for what's been working for you. I will give you some insight on what's been working for some of my clients, some different things. Hold on one second, I gotta tell somebody to be quiet. Okay, now, I usually have earphones in, so it muffles the noise. Okay, so the other thing is I'm Katie Force White. I'm a MAPS coach. If you don't know who I am, because you're newer to the office than me, I guess. I have been in that office since 2011. And obviously I don't come in very often because I actually work MAPS coaching with 38 clients on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And that's pretty much when all the meetings are. So I'm not there. Okay, so this is mastermind, right? So the key word of mastermind is to get involved. So any insight, anything you want to add in, any questions that you have for clarification, either drop them in the chat or just raise your hand and I'll let you go. So because the whole idea behind mastermind is that I am not doing all the talking, hopefully, even though every one of you knows I can do that. Okay, so let's get started with ideas. So this is kind of like you're probably going to be doing some notes here. I have clients that are in not all states, but a lot of the states around the country, and every one of them has the same problem that we have here. I don't have anybody that has an excess inventory of listings, not one person that I coach. So I hear this every single day. There aren't enough listings. And so in talking to all of these agents, I started taking all the ideas that they've all been trying in order to get things under contract and realized that the MLS, I'm sorry, you guys, but it's not your friend right now. It's not going to solve your problem. It's not going to get your people under contract, and you are going to continue spinning your wheels, taking people to houses that you are frankly wasting your time in a lot of these cases. So my biggest piece of advice here is stop being reliant on the MLS. And this is a very skill-based market that you are in. So if you're a newer agent and you've never gone to look for listings before because buyers land in our laps pretty easily, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to survive this market, you definitely have to become a listing specialist. You're going to struggle if you continue to only support buyers. In fact, I have agents telling me right now, I don't even want to take this buyer. I have clients that I am coaching that are right now finding people in their office to go do all their showings and take them to inspections and said, I am not showing a house because I need those hours to lead generate for a listing. And so they're paying agents 25 to 30% to just take over showing these buyers houses because they also believe I'm probably not finding the house for them in the MLS and I need to be working for the listing. So this is some of the stuff that they're doing. And I'll give you names of some of the websites some of them are using. You guys may have ones that you would suggest as well. So go ahead and either drop a note to me or tell everybody here if there's some that you would suggest. One thing that everybody's starting to work on is absentee owners. So an absentee owner is somebody who does not live in the house. And most of them are probably either a landlord, it's likely a landlord-tenant situation, or they're a person that lives in multiple places. So they might have a house 6 months in Florida and 6 months in Michigan, and they might be a very good seller at this point, okay? Because if they cashed out up here, they could maybe upgrade what they've got down south. So an absentee owner is a very, very good person to reach out to for will they sell. Now, question I get always to follow that up is, where do I get an absentee owner list? Check with your title companies. A lot of title companies will supply you with an absentee owner list. How much data you'll get on there beyond the address, I'm not sure. So it's just going to kind of depend on where you get the information from. There is a website called datazap.com. It's spelled D-A-T-A, but Z-A-P-P.com. That is a place where you can buy a list of absentee owners and you're paying per what do I want to say, address. Okay, so it might be 14 cents an address or something, and you're paying for a list. Okay. There's other websites that I will drop into the KW website later today. There was just a Maps Coach conversation about this, and it was all in a link, and I just got to go back in and pull them all out of there. Other than that, you can get some absentee owner information out of Realist. There's some of the dialer companies also offer it if you're using a dialer. So you just kind of got to look around for that, but I'll get you a couple other websites. You'll probably have to pay for it. But I would tell you, if I was focused on trying to find absentee owners, it would be really helpful to just have a list to go off of. Now, with that, most people will start with a mailer. They'll start mailing them. Now, there are top agents who part of their looking for listings is to send out every single month, kind of like you would with a farm. Maybe this absentee owner group is your farm. This is the farm of people. You send something to them every single month with the belief that at some time they're going to want to sell because it makes sense. And when they sell, I want to be the person that they sell with. So I need to be in front of them every single month. So that's what the idea is behind starting with an absentee owner list. Also, with an absentee owner list, you would want to try to mine for, whoops, hold on, something happened here, my phone rang. You'd want to also look for phone numbers. Now, most people don't know how to get phone numbers either. So there is a website called truepeoplesearch.com. It's free. Okay, it's a free website. Now, it's going to give you all the phone numbers associated with that address. In my case, it also shows my ex-husband and his wife. So I don't know who you're going to get on, and he's never lived in this house. So you never know who's going to show up on there, but I do think you can figure out like who should I call in there. Avoid calling anybody's children because it also puts the age of the people on there, so you kind of know that's probably not an adult in that house. So call them, attempt to call them, mailing them, and remember, if they're an absentee owner, they don't live in that home. So if you door knock it, you're probably getting a tenant. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing because the tenant might want to be a purchaser. But we're really not looking for buyers right now. We really want to get connected with that landlord. So now I do know people that will even go to the neighborhood and ask all the neighbors, who owns this house? Do you know how I can reach him? So if you happen to be around in a neighborhood and you see people out, do you guys know who, happens to own 705, whatever, and see if you can't find out, how to reach those people. A lot of times the neighbors know all this stuff, especially the nosy neighbors. Okay, the other thing is, this is the basics. For every single one of your buyers, you have a list of things that you should be checking off that you should be doing for your buyers. Number one, I find out where they want to live, right? So they narrow it down. Now, some of our people are becoming desperate and they're getting really wide. And it's like, I'll live in 15 different cities. Okay, well, where do you want to live? So I have a target to kind of work off of. From there, I'm going to go check the MLS and I'm going to see if there's ever been a withdrawn. Not last week, not this month, ever. Has there ever been a withdrawn in that neighborhood? And in our MLS, it says withdrawn conditional and withdrawn unconditional. If it says conditional, but it was like years ago, there's probably still not a condition on that one. But don't do a conditional within the last few months because it might still be a contract with an agent. So unconditional withdrawn. Expired. Was there an expired in the neighborhood that they want to live in? Ever. Not recent, expired, like ever. Was there an expired in there? Okay. Is there a FSBO in that neighborhood? And double check if there's an absentee owner. And if you are using HomeSnap Pro, check the app to see if there are likely sellers in that neighborhood. Every buyer deserves your best, right? So every buyer deserves having you do at least these things to see if there's an off-market home in their area that they might want to live in. Now, every time I go on a showing, if I'm still going on showings with them, and I haven't asked somebody else to do it, I'm going to go door knock, minimum 5 doors this way, 5 doors that way, 10 doors across the street. I'm doing that on every single house. And I'm telling my client, hey, before we can go to the next house, I got to go do this really fast. And you go through and you door knock and you right in front of your own client, show them I'm going and I'm looking for houses for you that are not on the market right now. It's almost like a scientific fact that if somebody's house goes for sale in a neighborhood, so does somebody else's. I don't know that I've ever gone to a showing where there wasn't another for sale sign somewhere in the vicinity of that house. So just always do that, 5, 5, 10, and then go on to the next house. If you have not tried the golden letter for that neighborhood, does anybody know what the golden letter is? Does everybody know what that is? The golden letter is a very direct letter that says, I have a buyer that wants to live in your neighborhood. Would you sell your house to them? That's it. And I get all these people that want to get fancy. Oh, I need to make it better. Let me tell them a little bit about my buyer. Okay, the minute you start doing that, you start violating fair housing laws. So don't do that. Just keep it simple. I just gave you the script. Write down, will you sell your house to my buyer who wants to live in your neighborhood? That's it. And keep it simple. The percentage of mastery clients that are getting massive response from that is very good. Most of them are saying that they're getting a minimum of 2 to 3 calls from every mailing that goes out of people that would consider selling their home. Okay, so if you're not doing that, there is an expense involved in it. So check your budget, make sure your budget makes sense for your budget. Otherwise, just get physically on your feet and go do it. So let's see here, Facebook posts. If you're not focusing on, I have a lot of people that do like once a week, it's their I have a buyer day, and they feature a buyer and where they want to live, and they ask for anybody that knows of anybody who wants to live in that, or that wants to sell in that neighborhood. Okay, so you can do that. I also have people running Facebook ads, and those Facebook ads are I have a buyer Facebook ads, and they're very successfully pulling sellers who are just calling them directly and saying, I would sell my house to your buyer. So I will tell you, most Facebook ads, when we're saying it works, and all Facebook ads work, it's how you work it on the other side is the real issue. But the Facebook ad like this is not going to give you 45 leads. Okay, so you can't judge your ad and say, this wasn't a good ad, I didn't get a bunch of leads. What you're looking for is for somebody to directly reach back out to you and say that they would, and you'll probably get 1 to 2, maybe. It's a system and it's a numbers game. So you're going to run cheap ads that are 20 bucks, and you're going to do, maybe you feature your buyer. This is, again, something you do around a buyer that has a specific goal, and you're going to do that ad for that buyer. Again, do not violate fair housing laws on this. And here's a couple tips for your ad. Short, sweet, 3 points, emojis, and a photo. What am I looking for? Show them what I'm looking for, because people's brains work like, I saw it, now I'm going to go look for that in my mind. So I have seen people not update their I have a buyers, and they just have a pretty picture. Well, it says right in the write-up that they want a ranch style home, and you have a 2-story colonial on your picture. My head just said, do I know anybody with a 2-story colonial? Even though the words in there said, I want a ranch. So now I'm not even looking for the right thing for you. So you need to follow how people's brains work in Facebook. They're just looking at pictures and they're scrolling fast. Okay, they probably didn't read ranch, by the way. They probably just looked at the picture. Okay, so you have your command I have a buyer ad, you've door knocked, you've done a Facebook post, you've mailed to the neighborhood, you've checked for withdrawns, expireds, you have looked for absentee owners in that neighborhood. You hear all these things that you have to be doing for a buyer. It's all lead generation for a listing, not for the buyer, right? Send a I have a buyer. I have a lot of clients that do a weekly newsletter to their database, and in it they feature the buyer that needs help. And so they're asking their database, is there anybody that you know that would be interested in selling a home that meets the Johnson family's requirements? This is what we're looking for this week, and they're featuring the buyer that week.
Katie,
Yeah.
question. So you're actually featuring a photo of your buyer, or what do you?
Some people do. To their database, they do. Some people do. You don't have to. You can just do like a description of, I'm featuring the Johnson family this week, and they're looking to move to this neighborhood or whatever, if you know anybody that's thinking of selling.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's see here. What else am I looking for in my notes? Oh, the other one. Go to Zillow and check and see, is there a for rent by owner listed in there? Okay, so this is a landlord listing his property for rent. Okay, if it's listed in there, we call it a for rent by owner. The for rent by owner is likely a small time investor, and he's not using a property management company if he put it in there himself, and he may not be familiar with how much money he could make on that house, and you're reaching out to him, and this is a very direct conversation, okay? We're not beating around the bush with these people. You guys are trying to find a house, right? So you're going to call them and you're going to say, hello, Mr. Investor. I see that you have 123 Main Street listed for rent. Have you considered selling that home? Yes. He says yes. Excellent. I would love to get a buyer in to look at that. Are you available today? Go fast, because it's going to go fast, right? So move on, just get your appointment and get your buyer in there, right? Second piece of this, he says no. Okay, I'm just curious, how many other properties do you own that you rent out? 4 or 5. Okay, well, what I do know is most investors have a property that absolutely drives them crazy and is a complete pain in their neck. So is there another one that you would consider selling in this market right now? And in a lot of cases, there is a landlord that say, you know what, I'm so sick of this property down that road. It's just been one problem after another. I'd sell that one. Now you just picked up yourself a different listing. It might not help your buyer, but who cares? You got a listing. Okay. So don't stop with, no, I won't sell it. Okay, great. Thanks. Goodbye. No, ask him, because smaller investors have multiple properties and they probably don't have, a big property management company handling it all. All right. If they have a property management company, who cares? Go for it anyway. Even though their property management company might be able to sell it, just move forward and try to get a listing appointment anyway. Don't be put off by that. Now, how many of you have called your lenders and said, what investors that have refied with you this year would actually sell their homes? Okay, I have a client that did that and got 3 investors that will offload their properties. So remember, like, lenders that have a portfolio of people that they've been working with over a long time, they know who all their investors are. And a little call out to them saying, hey, I was just talking to one of my agent clients, and they were telling me that they need a house, and I know you have a house in this area. Have you thought about selling it? Because you can get top dollar right now. So allow the lender to help connect you with people who would sell. That's partnership, right? Using your lenders to help you in both ways. Anybody have questions on that? Craigslist. I know it's old. I get it. And then people are like, what? Why would I go on Craigslist? Because again, older investors that have been around for a while and they've always done it themselves, they use Craigslist still. Renters still go look on Craigslist. So go find any investors that you can find on Craigslist and just call them and reach out. You guys, right now, if I'm an investor, I would like to liquidate, because I can get top dollar and I'm just going to hold on to that money until this market shifts down. And when it shifts down, I can go reinvest in more rental properties. And so help them liquidate and help them be informed. Okay, what else have you guys tried? Oh, here's one more. This is out of your database. This is called the Make Me Move text. So you call you text your database and you say, what amount of money would make you move from your home? Or what's your Make Me Move number? However you feel that you would like to word it. What's your Make Me Move number? And you follow that up with, if I can bring you that number this month in an offer, would that be a problem? This does a lot for all of you guys, because this helps you identify a timeline. Every single person that you ever deal with has a timeline. Whether they've identified what the timeline is, they've got one. And it's our job as an agent to know what everybody's timeline is. So my timeline is, my kid is graduating in 3 years and this house will be gone in 3 years. That's my timeline. So if you text me that, I'm going to say, text me back in 3 years and I will give you that. And I'm going to go put that in my database. Oh, she'll go in 3 years. I need to know that, because in 2.5 years, I got to be talking to her about getting that on the market. Now, there will be people that will think that they are throwing out a crazy number to you. And you're like, that's not a crazy number. Did you know you could actually get that? So I have a lot of clients getting a massive return rate from their database from this text message. Not all of them can sell. All right. But here's the thing. Let's say they could sell for 350 and they say to you, I'd sell for 500. You know what? Tell me a little bit more about that. What would you do with the money that you'll make between, now and then, and so find out. Now you're talking like a financial planner. What's your life goal? Why is 500 important to you? And not that I can make 500 happen on a $350,000 house, but when I figure out what they're trying to do, I might be able to advise them a little bit on why it would be important to go ahead and sell now, because they may not see 500 for 15 years.
Mhm.
Okay, it opens up the conversation with your clients. Now, I have clients that are already getting listing appointments out of this, and there's some mastery clients reporting that they've gotten a 20% return from this text message. So that tells me nobody talks to their client or their past clients enough, and they don't have enough conversations, and that your past clients are not sharing with you what their financial goals are and plans are. And if you looked at yourself as an agent who is helping them achieve real estate goals outside of just living in a house, and that you're helping them create a legacy that they are going to be able to take that money and do something with for their families. If you're not having those kind of conversations, you got to ask yourself, do they not trust me enough to have those conversations with me? Because with that, you'll find I pick up helping a kid buy a house. I pick up helping grandma and grandpa get rid of their home, because now I'm having conversations that are much deeper than just, oh, you want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath? Let's go. Justin and Garrett took 3 listings off of a post just like this one. I have a client who put up, hers said, what, would you sell your house today? That's it. That's all it said was, would you sell your house today? And we put this up like just a test. It was a few months back, and I saw it go everywhere. It was everywhere. Right after she did it, it was everywhere. And so maybe don't all do it on the same day, but I will say it did work, and she got 6 listing appointments out of that. And that's just people she knew on Facebook. So it does work. It does generate listing appointments for you. Is there anything else that you guys have found off-market properties on? I know Dana has one. And I will give you this tip. New construction is probably the only place that a VA buyer can go right now, and an FHA buyer. Okay. So I have 2 VAs under contract on new construction, which may turn out to be a problem now because they're saying they might not be approved for VA, but we're going to try and get that fixed. So, but if you have a VA and an FHA buyer, if you're giving them good advice, you're taking them to new construction right now, because it's the only thing that they're not going to have to go to battle in. But I will say Dana went and she searched an area and found a guy who was doing, hers was golden letter focused on the type of home that the buyer wanted. And she found a guy flipping a house that's selling it to our buyer, and they're going to buy that home when it's done, and he's working on it until like the end of May. So I was just out there yesterday previewing how he's doing with the parents of the person who's buying. We happen to be working with 3 VA people who are not even here. So we've been doing all the footwork, but just know that these 3 people are under contract and none of them came out of the MLS. I'm going to tell you this too. Here's my new construction tip. They only put a couple of them in the MLS. So go there when they're not, when the workers are there, and find the supervisor and ask him, what's coming up? What's the next? So what I got from that guy was, and the tile guy, I talked to him too. So I talked to the supervisor, and he told me that we have 5 more houses coming available, and it'll be this one, that one, this one, this one. Like, he gave me the list. He pointed them out to me. He even came to my car to tell me, like, because I asked about one, and then he came over to my car and told me about the next 4. And then I went inside, and the tile guy was there, and he told me what house he was going to next, and what he's like, this one will get floors next week, this one's getting them next week, and he told me all that. So you can't just rely on bugging a new construction agent to get the information, because number one, they're overwhelmed. The one I'm working with is so overwhelmed right now. And so they can't be answering your text messages all the time. You're going to have to go do the hard work of going and walking through the neighborhood and talking to these construction guys and getting the information. So I already knew which ones had the better lots, and I went and said, is that one going to be coming available? I know it's not quite as far along. And note that these builders have to change the price all the way up until the point where they start installing flooring, because at that point they've got all their plywood and everything done. They're changing prices. Like the 2 people that I have under contract, same house, one is getting it for $395, the other one's getting it for $405. So and they literally went under contract 2 weeks apart, but that's because the price changed in that amount of time. So keep in mind that they won't price them or put them into the MLS until they're past a certain point. And if you want to know about them before that, you're going to have to know about them before they put them in the MLS, or then you're competing against everybody. All right, what else you guys got question wise?
Hey, Katie, just one thing I know, I've heard on like some of the some of the calls with like Gary Keller and that talking about, I think Jason Abrams brought up like the Google stat that like 1 in 4 people are looking to move this year. So you have a lot of motivation out there. It's just like these off-market listings are perfect because you just got to take that fear away from them. Is that true? Was it 1 in 4 or something like that?
It's really high. And here's the thing, you guys, keep in mind, we are in the spring season. We should be seeing a ton of listings come in the market, and we're not. And I'm going to tell you, if you're not thinking like a seller right now, first of all, I'm literally going to come across the screen and ring some necks. If I see one more person post, there are no homes on the market. Like, do not post that. You are making it worse, because then the seller's like, well, I'm for sure not raising my hand, right? So, because the very first question that you will always get for an objection is, yeah, Katie, I'd sell my house, but I have nowhere to go. Well, guess what? I have a 100% rate of getting people into houses. I have never left a client homeless, ever. Okay. So you should work with me, and we should go and sell your home, and I will get you into a new home. I will do whatever it takes. Just like how I asked you if you would sell your home, I'm also asking any person I ever talk to if they would sell their home. So I will find you the home. You just tell me where you want it to be, and I will go find it for you. So you'll do anything, right? If you are an agent that talks about, I'll set you up for listings on the MLS and just let me know what you want to see. Guess what? You're going to run ragged, because you're never going to find a house that way. And if you do, you're going to have to go compete every single time. And every single time you're going to lose. And then you're going to have a really mad client. They need to know what else you're doing. The other tip that I have with this is that you better be telling your client every single week what you did for them, because I have seasoned agents getting fired by buyers. Seasoned agents, 20 years in the industry, getting fired by buyers because they think that their agent is doing nothing. So you do look like you're doing nothing, by the way, if the MLS sends you one house in a week and they think that's what you did. Okay. So they do think you're doing nothing. You have to tell them, this week I sent out a letter on your behalf. I ran an ad on your behalf. I put you in my office, for, featured buyer. I, go through the list every single week. This is what I did for you this week. Because, by the way, no other agent's taking your client then, because some other agent's not going to come in and say, well, I do all these things and you do nothing. Okay. So that's another big piece of advice. Be over communicating with your buyer on what's happening. And if you're sending them out with somebody else to see a house, let them know, I got to get on the phones. And if I go take you to this house and you don't win it, now what? So I'm getting on the phones. They're going to go open the door for you. And then when you come back, if you want to offer, we'll offer on it. I'm not saying we won't. I just want to make sure you have a backup plan.
Can we jump back to that? Like you're talking about on Facebook, it annoys me too when I see those that, the market's so crazy, there's no inventory out there. It reminds me of 2008 when nobody wanted to buy cars because they had the fear of losing their job, right? And then Honda came out with a great commercial that if you lose your job, we'll take the car back, right? And similar, like you guys, as you're out there, all of you have found somebody a house, so I would point out how don't focus on where the market's at, focus on what you're doing to solve the problem in the marketplace. And in those posts, you're speaking a different language than what every realtor, because it's not just the agents in our office who are complaining about the market. The number of posts I see from Remax and Real Living Key about just, oh my God, there's no house available, or, you can get $50,000 over because there's no inventory. And in my mind, it's like, I don't care if I get $50,000 over, where am I going to go? And so answer that problem for them, solve the problem, and you'll have all the customers you ever wanted. So
there's a book called The Storybook. Gary was, shoot, I forgot the name of it right now. Who knows?
The Storyteller Secret, isn't it? With
he did it last year. They were featured in Masterminds in the fall, and I'll think of it and I'll post it for you guys. But here's the thing: as agents, Brian's right. You're not telling your story the right way. Okay. Stop reflecting the market and reflect what you as an agent do that makes you stand out and be different. If your post was, what an exciting time that we are in, buyers are getting great low interest rates and getting into these homes, and sellers are getting top dollar, it is an amazing market right now. That is a different post than if I have to go to one more house and show 50 buyers and I had to stand in line and blah, blah, blah. I'm just painting this horrible picture for buyers right now. And every agent's doing it. And it's like, it's overwhelming as a coach when I'm just saying, well, I guess that agent needs to figure out how to do their job better, because, but that's not what people are seeing. They don't see that that's an unskilled agent. They think that the market's just crazy, right? So this is where you're going to tell your story at a higher level and people are going to want to work with you. So I do have clients getting called like, hey, I was going to work with this agent, but they're not doing anything for me. Can you be my agent? That's happening to clients of mine because of the way they tell the story of what they're doing for their clients. Now, I did want to make sure that there's a couple other things happening. There's a couple of agents that I coach that are pretty big, and every buyer that they have, they put them into a group. Okay. And anytime they have a coming soon or the office has a coming soon, they share it to their buyers that they are working with in that page. They're giving them, firsthand information. You cannot have that be a public page. You cannot do coming soon public like that. But you can inform your buyers just like you would inform them, like I would inform them if I saw these things posted, right? So I put all my coming soons. To me, a coming soon is a FSBO, all these ones I have access to that would you be interested in me searching this house for you? For sure. I'll go look and I'll go knock on that seller's door and see if he'll pay. Or, yeah.
I have a question. So the MLS Paragon is what I use. They just came out with this coming soon thing stating that, we have to list it within 7 days, but you're not supposed to allow showing. So how do we avoid, what are people breaking the rules by, like us, let's say Facebook internal AW Platinum? I feel bad about, like, I have one that's going to be coming and I'm working with Toby Masters and she wants to get her buyers in, but then I get this message saying, it's not allowed. You can't do showings before it goes live.
Well, so, and here's the thing, I coach 38 people in different states. So every state's got different rules on that whole coming soon thing. But I would say this, before you put it in as a coming soon in there, if you can match a buyer and a seller, and I'm telling you, I have a ton of agents doing this. If you go out and look for an off-market home and you can match a buyer and seller, there is no problem with that. It's once you've signed an agreement and stuck it in the MLS as a coming soon, now here's your problem. So if you can put the deal together prior to actually putting it into the MLS, you're fine. You're not violating anything. I found a house, they're not listed yet, and I'm putting a deal together on it. So that's not a problem. It's once you stick it into the MLS that now you're putting yourself in a situation where you can't. So if you knew that you had agents that likely have a buyer for that and you want to help get that all put together before ever putting it into the MLS, do it. And I've got people doing it for themselves.
So I can show it, is what you're saying, before it's listed.
Yes, show it before
it's in the MLS.
Yes, before it goes in the MLS, show it before that. Say, hey, seller, you know what? And here's the other reason why sellers might not be raising their hands right now. Besides the craziness they're seeing people write about, do you want to leave your house for 40 showings in 3 days? You have to move out right now. You have to go to a hotel for 3 days and if you have dogs and babies and all of those things, listing your house sounds like the worst nightmare that you could ever have to go through right now. Okay. Think about it. If you think it's annoying to leave for one showing and you've got 40 showings in the first 2 days, they're not looking forward to that. So a lot of sellers are saying, I'm not doing that right now. I do not want 40 people. It's COVID. I don't want all these people piling through my house. So if you can put together off-market deals for people, you're actually doing sellers a favor right now. Because know this, you're not getting a deal, people. Nobody's getting a deal. You're going to have to make it worth their while not to put it on the market. But you're going to get a better deal than if you had to go against 40 other buyers. You just won't have to come in maybe 50 grand over, but you might have to make it worth their while and say, not only am I going to give you asking, I'll let you have your free occupancy. I'll give you all the things, right? So it's enticing enough to stay off the market. So if your seller would prefer that, give them that option first. I have one right now. She doesn't want it in the MLS. So I'm just looking for a buyer for her.
Yeah, you have the one that you post on the internal page, right?
Yeah, and she got funky on me and raised her price. So now I'm like, here I am. I go, oh my God, I coach people every day on how to get the price right. And I got this lady that's 100%, I think, unrealistic. And I told her, if we're going to even attempt to get that price, you're going to have to put it in the MLS because I don't think I can pull that off market, but I don't know. It's a crazy market. Maybe I will. But the last part that I wanted to make sure I covered with you guys is what are you doing to get your offers accepted? Because I know there's lots of training on it, but I got a lot of MAPS clients doing some pretty creative, crazy things that I think are really smart and they're getting their offers accepted. So anybody willing to share something that they've done? Go ahead, Ran.
I actually am working with the FHA buyer right now, and they're pre-approved for $250,000. But I'm showing them houses that are in the 200 range because everyone's doing appraisal guarantees and they lost out on 5 offers already. Hence, I'm their new buyer's agent. So I have to like shine and show them what I can do. But that was one of the things that I did.
Okay.
I'm showing them 5 houses, but you know, let's hope we write an offer.
Okay. Appraisal guarantee. What do you got, Carla?
Mark Bynum was talking in the meeting this week about doing appraisal waivers. And so I'm working with a buyer that's approved up to 300. And I called the lender and I asked about that. And they said that, yes, it's property by property. They have to run it through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, because they ultimately are backing the loan. But if there's a 20% conventional buyer, there's a very good chance that they can waive that appraisal. So not only are you saving your buyer some money, you're giving them a leg up. So when they go and make an offer, and I asked about the turnaround time, and she said that they would be able to submit it and get an answer in 1 day.
Awesome.
So
That's
if you've got a
fantastic.
property that they want to look at before you even go there, you know, reach out to your lender, give them that address and see what you can do.
That's awesome. That's super smart. On top of that, I have had people say, I want to waive appraisal and they're not 20% down. But they're willing to like, you know, come. And I said, here's the thing. In this market, we should all be able to kind of identify like, how much is this house worth? Okay. So if this is a $250,000 cookie cutter house, like every other house in this neighborhood, it's going to appraise for $250,000. If you put your offer in for $265,000 and you want to waive the appraisal, they just better be prepared to bring 15 grand to the table in case it doesn't appraise, right? So you have to be smart on it. Now you may get yourself in a situation where you don't go into a ton of multiple offers and you're like, we're going to waive appraisal, but we're going in and asking because I know it's going to appraise at that. It should appraise at that. You're not putting as much at risk there. But when you are risking 15,000, they better have the 15,000. But you do sometimes right now have people who have money, a little extra money, and they have a little wiggle room. And if you waived appraisal and you went in at that offer, they could make it. They could make it happen. It's rare anymore to see somebody's appraisal come in above what everybody's asking at this point. So you're just kind of hoping it comes in less, right? And you'll pay appraised value. What is that, Renee?
Oh, I was going to say, is anyone dealing with a situation in that example of 250 is the list price? They're waiving the appraisal. They're offering 265 and the appraisal actually comes in at 240. Is there a situation where the buyer will back out and can they?
Well, you could write that offer if you're going to do that the house must appraise for a minimum of 250. So this appraisal guarantee is dependent upon this house appraising at 250.
So, but I mean, so that's different from waiving the appraisal.
Well, you're waiving it that I'll pay up to 265, but if it doesn't appraise for at least 250, I'm only willing to pay 15 over.
So you just add different additional criteria in there.
Different wording. And before you do it, if you've never done it before, please send it to Jan and make sure you've got it written up correctly so that you don't write it and really mess yourself up. I do also know that I've seen agents throw $1,000 of their own commission at this as a bonus to the co-op agent saying, I'll give you $1,000 of my commission on this offer. Very enticing on the other side. And if you have the ability to waive any part of your commission, give it back to the seller as a piece of incentive. I've seen people doing that too. I don't give my money away. So I only give my money away in a very, very, very rare circumstance, but I've seen it out there for very desperate buyers. The other thing is I've had a client that does, she puts in there that we aren't waiving inspection, but we will waive anything up to $5,000. So we are willing to foot the bill for anything up to $5,000 in repairs. And that puts a seller who thinks their house is in good condition at ease. I'm not going to get nickel and dime, not getting this little bitty, I don't have to fix a door, I don't have to fix a window, things like that. They just want peace of mind that I'm not getting a letter later saying we're backing out because of all this. So we're willing to handle anything that shows up in the appraisal up to $5,000. That pretty much eliminates any major stuff like you need a new roof and all that kind of stuff. So that saves them that, but it also gives, just know your buyer might have to foot up to $5,000. So talk to them about it. Make sure they're good with that. Escalation clauses, if you're not using those, they're obscene. And they're in every deal now. And if you're a seller's agent, it can be stressful because you've got 10 deals, all with escalations, all in different amounts. So here's my little tip on that. $1,000 escalation's probably not the best. 2,000 is better. Anytime you can get your number so it's going to beat the next one by more, it's better. So if everybody's coming in at 1,000, we're all just moving up 1,000 like this. But mine goes 2,000. Now I just beat everybody who had the $1,000 escalation. So think like strategically, not just about escalation. The other thing is somebody put in, I will beat the highest offer by $1,000. So doesn't matter who's got escalation clauses in there. I'm taking the highest offer and I'm going to beat it by 1,000. So they can remove all the escalations, take it to all the way to the highest and say, okay, here's your price. There's
But cap that, right? I won a deal 2 summers ago like that. I was $1,000 above, but not to exceed
yes.
X amount, and I won.
Yeah, I do recommend that because, you know, you guys, I'm actually a person who bought a property last fall and whatever, it worked out. But I won because I did $1,000 over the highest price because it was multiple offers. So I did $1,000 over up to and not to exceed this amount. And I won it. And then, wouldn't you know it, the house really, in my mind, was worth $129 and ended up appraised for the amount that I offered. So I got $140 on a house that was $129. So this seller really like made out on this. And I had to still pay $1,000 above my $140. So it worked to win, but I mean, whatever, it appraised. So I didn't have to bring the money. Let's just put it that way. So the other part of this is short or no inspection. So if this is a really new house and it's only a couple of years old and the chances that there's like a major problem with this house in the last 2 years, let your buyer decide. And go one step further. Have them sign an amendment that says, I waived my inspection.
No.
What was that? Oh. I heard something. No, I heard no. But if they waive it, just have them sign something that says, I was advised to get an inspection and I'm opting not to do an inspection. Okay. Because later on, if something pops up and they say, Katie, you advised me not to get an inspection, I want to be covered in that. I advised you that it would help you win. I'm not saying that not having an inspection is not a good thing. However, I do have people that get an inspection anyway, and they have it for informational purposes. So we want inspection for information. We aren't going to hold the seller to anything that is wrong with the property.
Or I just wanted to add about the inspection, in addition to the criteria up to 5,000, just anything that would be environmental or safety concerns would be the only thing, to consider for during the inspection.
Yeah, safety or security or something like that. Yeah. Yep. Now you can't do some of these things, by the way, if you're doing like an FHA or VA. Some of these things you're just not going to be able to do. So just because of their appraiser will go out and go right over the top of you. So also high EMD. I have seen people win because the seller said they're putting $10,000 down for an earnest money deposit. They must really want this house. So I've definitely seen that, and it does work because they're like, I don't know, all these offers are kind of the same. They're all really high, but everybody else is only throwing $1,000 down, and this client's putting $10,000 down. So if you're not waiving contingencies and you want to put a big fat EMD down, they have to have the money to close anyway, right? It's their money for closing. So if they're going to bring it to closing, they get it back if they have an inspection issue or if they have a financing issue. Because I didn't waive it in the contract. So if you're going to waive, don't put a big fat EMD on it because you're risking your people's money and then they might not be able to buy after that. All right, what else? Did I miss anything that anybody can think of? No?
They've been talking a little bit about paying some of the sellers' closing costs, or like paying their the transfer tax, or doing something like that.
Anytime you can take any of the expenses off the seller's side and put it on your side, any expenses that they would have, and you as an agent know what percentage the seller would need to have to bring to the closing table. So just kind of, if you can move that over to your buy side and they can handle it and the mortgage is fine and it's not going to throw anything off on that side. Make sure you're talking to lenders. So when you're getting creative, make sure you're talking to the lender, because if you do something that the lender can't approve, then you kind of screw your client. So make sure your lender is good with it. They've seen their money, right? I tend to not like to get into the money stuff with my clients. I just like the lender to handle that. I don't want that conversation with my client, really. I don't want to advise people on their money. I want the lender to do that. So I tend to not really get into the details on that. But I do have like these 2 new constructions where my buyers are actually paying to finish the basements outside of the, like they're paying for that. That's not involved in the mortgage. And so they've already sent their checks to pay for that. The issue is, should they not want to move forward? They paid for a builder to have a finished basement. So, that's on them. My buyers understand that though. Now they're VA. So if I would have put that in the contract, that might've been an issue because they might not be okay with that. It just depends on the lender. So run things past your lender. If you're going to get creative and do something different, just make sure it's going to work and that you're not going to have a situation later. But yeah, there's pay for the sellers, give them free occupancy. Here's what I'll say about free occupancy, you guys, though. Number one, I am not in the market of being a property manager. So as soon as you close, I'm out. I'm done. You two have got each other's phone numbers. Go have fun, because I am not exchanging keys. I am not getting signatures on things. I make it incredibly clear at closing. If you have key exchange on such and such date, this is how it works. Here's your pieces of paper. Here's each other's phone number. Work it out. Because anytime the issues come in, they always dump it on the agents and they try to make the agents go and figure it all out. And guess what? You're not getting paid anymore. You don't even represent them anymore. So you're involved in a landlord-tenant disagreement and you're trying to solve it. So get yourself out of it. And I always tell them right up front, I won't be a key exchange. You guys, we're done. So what I want you to know is he's now your landlord and this is your tenant. So you guys have to communicate on key exchange. And if they aren't happy about what curtains are there and they can have that conversation with each other and not have to have it with me. And guess what? They'll be a whole lot agreeable when they're standing in front of each other than they are when they try to put agents in the middle to try to fix it all. So people talk very differently face to face than they do when they have other people to send messages through. So don't get in the middle of it. That's my biggest piece of advice there. Give free occupancy and then get out. And the other piece of that is you might want to ask for a deposit. So ask for a deposit of $1,000 or $1,500 to cover any type of, I don't know, they dented the wall when they took something out or whatever, because then you're also going to get that phone call. I didn't get any money for this and he scratched up the walls when he moved out, or, whatever that might be. So I think asking for a deposit ensures it's going to be left in good condition and it will be returned back to the person who had the seller. So they'll get their money back.
So are you suggesting not to, when we're negotiating, not to put free occupancy as one of the?
You can, yes, you can, but I'm saying don't put free occupancy with no deposit. I really think there should be a deposit there. I've been screwed on this. So
Right.
No occupancy fee, and then they just move out and trash the house on their way out. They don't vacuum or anything. And now your buyer is going and moving in there and he's owned that house for a month and a half. It also needs to be very clear. If the HVAC goes out while the person lives in the house, what happens?
Don't know.
Isn't that
Well,
the?
the
whoever
The buyer
person
owns the house now.
is?
The buyer owns the house now, but you know what you're going to hear? I own it, but he must have known about it and he's been living there. And how do I know he didn't change the filter and all that? So when there's occupancy involved, I'm telling you, put a deposit on it and then get yourself out of it and let them know, like, you guys are a landlord tenant now. So you guys make all these conversations. Here's each other's phone numbers, set your day for key exchange and get out. I'm telling you, this is like such a pain in the butt.
But
When
Jeff,
you-
when you're putting a deposit down, it would go into escrow with the title company.
Yeah,
So
right.
somebody's got to coordinate that key exchange and
You
then
don't need to.
you don't have to. So, but what about,
They do. And they have to
let's
send that paperwork to the title company.
okay, and then the title company will deal with the two of them of the deposit.
Yep, 100%. I'm telling you guys, you will thank me if you get out of this. Trust me.
Another reason you want to have a deposit is when the time comes for that key exchange, the seller, needs to have motivation to get out Otherwise, maybe they can't get into their new house yet. Now your buyer is stuck trying to get in, and there's no incentive for that seller to get out if you haven't held money.
When I was a team leader, we had a agent in our office who had a seller stay in the house for 6 months. He would not get out. I currently have a client out in California. His client is so crazy. He's been there for 8 months. He won't get out, and he bought another house, and he already owns it in another state, and he won't leave. He will not leave. They can't get him out. They have to. And in California, you can't evict right now. So this guy's just living in this house for 8 months, and his other house that he's never been to that he bought is just sitting up there. And he's like, well, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do because we're not involved in this. But it's a mess. It's a mess, and it does happen.
And during the free occupancy, so when is the final walkthrough?
I do the final walkthrough before closing, and then don't wait, because if the condition of the house isn't good before closing, then there's nothing you can do. If it happens afterwards, that's why you have the deposit, because we walked through and we were good right before closing, and then when we went to do our key exchange, we weren't happy with this, and that's why you have the deposit. Any other?
What time in your transaction do you do that? Because I had one last summer that we did the deposit, but it was it was after the appraisal because occupancy was an issue.
What do you mean? I'm not sure if I understood.
So I had the buy side, and we gave free occupancy to win the bid. And unfortunately, I didn't know what I didn't know about the deposit. So we asked for it. Unfortunately, I did get it, and title held it in escrow. I'm just bringing up a situation that.
If I'm giving free occupancy,
process of the deal, right?
I'm asking for deposit at the time I put that in the contract. So I put in free occupancy with a $1,500 security deposit. Yeah.
Which our PA, like Sarah said, doesn't. You can write that in, but there's a form we have, I guess.
Yeah. You put it in at the beginning because you're probably not going to get somebody to sign the paperwork to agree later.
No, I was fortunate in that situation.
Yeah,
And the
you were.
buyers, it was a plus. Yeah.
You really were. Is there any other tips, tricks you guys want to share that you think would be helpful to anybody?
Having your buyer totally approved except for appraisal, and final underwriting.
Oh, that's huge too. Yeah, you're right. Get them all the way. Like Keller Mortgage, when you put in the PA, they order appraisal immediately, and the person has already been through underwriting at that point. So if you can tell the co-op agent, here's one piece of advice that almost all of my clients use. They say, call the co-op agent and find out what is important to the seller. What does the seller want out of this? It's not always money. And so sometimes when you're shocked that you didn't win because you put 20 grand over on there and you're like, how did we not win this? Well, that might not have been what the seller wanted. That might not have been important to them. What might have been important to them is that they get 2 months of occupancy or things like that. So whatever it is, by the way, you can't go over 2 months of occupancy. It's mortgage fraud. So and don't write contracts for that. I've had people say, well, we'll do 2 months and then we'll just do another month on the side. And I go, I'm not a part of that. You have 60 days. That's it. Anything over that on a primary residence is mortgage fraud. So I'm not getting involved in that. So don't go right up 4 months. Don't put your name on that. If they do it and you don't know about it, that's one thing. Close your ears, walk away. Don't be a part of that. You didn't know. But it's 60 days is max. Now, if you are using off-market properties, and you're in control of all this, it's not on the market, right? You're in 100% control of this. You push out closings, okay? So you push it out. You say, okay, you guys need 4 months in the house. Great. This buyer will wait 4 months. So what we're going to do is we're going to write this up for closing on this date, and we're not going to put occupancy in at all, okay? We're just closing on that date. Or you're going to set it up, we're closing here, and occupancy is until this point, and you set it up like that. But you have complete control when it's an off-market property. Now you're choosing how everybody's going to get what they need in this. And that's why off-market properties are becoming very popular, is that I am in 100% in control of this whole deal now. I don't have to worry about anybody else's timeline. You could find out if you reached out to the co-op agent that the seller has nowhere to go. And you're wanting to move in 30 days and close really fast is freaking the seller out because they don't have anywhere to go, and it could take them 4 months. So then this is where you can say, we'll take a 60-day closing and give you 60 days occupancy. that might be how you win the offer without even going over asking. Just talk to your co-op agents. Not all co-op agents are communicative, but if you can get them on the other side and get them to say, hey, listen, I want to make this work for your seller. What is the most important thing to the seller? And then let them know. I am always overly friendly to those co-op agents. I mean, frankly, just kissing their butt, because I am not going to judge them for how long it took them to get back to me. I'm not going to do all that stuff to them, because I need them to accept my offer and I need to have a really good transaction with them. So if I'm already complaining to them about, I can't believe you haven't responded to me, why aren't you letting me in, all those things, I literally have agents I coach that have told me, I will not accept an offer from a nasty agent because I'm not working with them. So I advise my seller that this person is a nasty agent, and if we take this offer, it's going to be messy. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat. And they don't get their offers accepted. So if you're the nasty agent, you better, for your client's sake, because nobody's going to war here. All right, anybody else have anything they want to add in?
I'd like, Katie, could we talk about the buyer letters to the sellers and what the direction is right now? Because I know.
I don't know what the office's direction is on that. If I give you my, Brian, do you want to advise on that? I don't want to violate like
Can
office.
you say the question again, Renee?
Seller letter to the seller from a buyer.
I'm talking about, Brian, I'm talking about the buyer letters to the sellers, talking, it's still happening, but, there is some concern about fair housing laws. So I was just wondering, I mean, my last listing, I definitely got multiple letters from buyers agents and buyers. So just curious of what, just overall with Keller Williams and then in our market center, what the thoughts are.
It's interesting. I'll have to dig into that deeper. And I had just watched that that New York documentary where they popped all those real estate agents,
Yes.
So
I was on that conference.
I personally would be a little leery of it, but Katie, give your insight and then I will check.
I'll give my insight and then take it for what it is and then check with Jan before you do it. So my first part of this is, if I'm a listing agent, I will not give that to my client. Okay. I'm protecting myself as a listing agent, and I'm never giving one of those letters to my clients. On the reverse side of it, all of my clients write them to get their offers accepted. And I also I make sure that I filter it and make sure that there's no, we're Black, we're white, we're Mexican, we're whatever. We have children, we're gay, we're lesbian, all those things cannot be inside of that letter. It can strictly be, seller, your house is absolutely gorgeous. We can see spending the next 10 years here. All like seller, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. Nothing about my race, religion, sex, anything that violates fair housing. Okay. So that if somebody read that letter, it's just a big, huge, juicy, you're amazing seller, and not a whole violation of fair housing. Because if the agent on the other side decides to turn you in for violating fair housing, because there are those out there, they'll take that letter and they'll send it in and say, I was sent this by the agent and she's violating fair housing. Okay. So there's no violations against dogs. There's no violations against, we love the pool. We can see enjoying summers in the backyard, all that kind of stuff. Those things are not violations. But when you start go look at the fair housing rule and make sure that you don't have any of the classes listed in your letter, and then you're good. If classes are listed in your letter and you get a nasty agent on the other side that turns you in, you passed it along. So, but as a listing agent, I never give them to my client. I read them just to see what it has to say, but I don't give them to my client, and I don't advise my client on that. However, I will tell you, I have had people want to sell to military, because I do deal with a lot of military. And if I knew the client was military, that's not a fair housing. And I would tell my client, like, just FYI, this is a military client right here. So, and sometimes they're almost always VA anyway, so they kind of know that. But does that help at all? Because I don't want to. And a lot of my clients use the letters and all of that. But as a listing agent, just don't send them, or just don't give them to your client. And then you can't be accused of doing anything that was violating. All good? Anybody else got anything they want to throw in? All right. Thanks you guys for joining me. I have no idea how many people showed up on inside the offices because I can only see on here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. And it was great content. I think I don't know how many are in Port Huron, but we had a few down here listening on the TV. So thank you for taking your time and doing this for us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I did record it because a couple people reached out to me and said, "Will you please record? I can't be on it." So I did record it, and it goes up into the Zoom cloud, so it takes a while. As soon as I can get it out, I'll send it over to you guys. I'll just send it to the office, and then you guys can put it out however you want. But yeah, let me know if anybody has questions. And I'm going to plug Maps really quick, you guys. If you have in two ways. If you have $150,000 in GCI in a year and you are not in Maps coaching, you should definitely be talking to Maps coaching, and you should go talk to Brian because
Yep.
they're running a program where you can get a free month of coaching if you're over 150,000. If you're at 75,000 and above and you're not in breakthrough coaching, we are getting ready and are already in one of the most difficult markets that you will ever see. And in your career, definitely in my career so far, has been the most difficult market. And the next one coming is going to be just as crazy. So knowing that, get a coach to guide you through all of this and get you into the Maps world where you can connect with all these other agents that are doing all these creative things. Coaches are doing weekly masterminds or monthly masterminds. You have access to a page of only Mastery clients, free entry into all of the events that we have. And it's just a different world if you're not growing and you're not seeing an increase in your business year after year. I have clients that had more than 3/4 of my roster had their best year in their entire career last year. And that was in a COVID year where we had to teach them all to pivot really fast. And some of them had the biggest summers that they've ever had in COVID. So we spent so much time just shifting their businesses, and they do a really good job at the office trying to help you guys like know all these things, but there's just, your coach knows more. Okay. They just do. And so, and they'll give you a one-on-one kind of, they're catering it to you. And everybody always says to me, but it costs. Guess what? If you can't invest in yourself to get a return, then you're not looking at this the right way, because coaching is an investment. It's not a cost. It is an investment in your career. You will for sure make more money. And if you don't, your coach should be fired, but you will make more money with a coach than you would without. We just don't have clients going backwards in coaching. They just don't do it. So it's just it's a commitment for that. But if you're not ready for breakthrough and you're not ready for mastery, there's group coaching. And if you're not taking advantage of those are spectacular. They're like $199 for 6 months. Or not even, I think it's $199 for like a 6-month program. There's Mega Listing Agent right now. I don't know why everybody's not signed up for that one, because it's all about how to find listings. There's a Mega Buyers Agent one on how to get your buyers offers accepted and what you should be doing to create a buyer world for yourself and how to leverage it. There's just so many great courses out there, and they're not a huge expense. It's all a write-off. You're going to write it off in your taxes. And I'm telling you, the kind of education that you might be missing out on by not taking advantage of some of those, it's big. And is Bold coming?
Yeah, we're shooting for a Bold in August, I think. Northfield just did one that just started. But yeah, we're working on getting those in the region.
If there's not one coming, like there's another launch, I think in June. If it's not in our office and you want to get in it, you guys, they're doing a totally different, it's called Bold Local. You have a coach for just your group, and you have 3 hours twice a week, I think it is, or 2 hours twice a week, something like that right now. You have a dedicated coach. So it's a totally different experience, and it is not like what they did last year where there's 40,000 people in there. This is very small. And just a little side note, if you're looking for local referrals and somebody's doing one in June that is maybe on the west side of the state or somewhere else, if you can get in that one, you get all the referrals for this side of the state or this area of Metro Detroit.
Yeah, smart idea there. On the group coaching and stuff like that. So to help people understand, like what's the contract like for them to try it out? Like
There's no contract for group coaching. You actually just sign up for an actual group coaching session. So if I want Mega Listing Agent, it runs for 6 weeks. It costs $199. Most of them have their own Facebook group. You have access to the coach that's teaching it. You have a whole content and that they do each week. Most of the times it's recorded. So if you can't be on when it's being done, you can watch it later. they all have, things with them. And then if you aren't using those groups for referrals, you should be, because those people are all over the country. So you can build up your agent referral network through that as well. So yeah, and I think that one's like $199. So that one's it's going on right now. So I'm sure there'll be another one right after it. You may still be able to get in because I think it's only a weekend.
Okay.
But I have a lot of mastery clients that are in it right now because even though we're working on listing, they wanted more. They're like, I need more.
To do like a breakthrough. So is there a contract they signed? Is it 6 months? They got to commit to a year?
You
What?
know, I don't know if it's a $450 a month contract, but it used to be a year, and I think they took that away. It
Okay.
might be 4 months minimum, but I'll just tell you the one piece of advice I will tell you: if you're expecting to go into coaching and you're only going into breakthrough and you're just going to have 2 calls a month and you're expecting to be making a ton more money the first month that you're there,
Yeah.
number one, you better highly be accountable. And number two, that's probably not what's going to happen, because a lot of things you don't have down right now and why you need a coach is because you don't have the fundamentals. And the fundamentals take place in those first few calls. And while we will be able to help you find business right away, I can tell you that within 3 months, you'll have more business. You just don't have the fundamentals right now, which is why you need a coach. I mean, I'm with mastery clients that I got people going up to $1 million, and we're working on calendar. Okay. This is something nobody has mastered, and mastery clients struggle with it too, even the ones who are going to net $1 million. So if we've had to go back to the basics, I'm going to tell you, if you haven't mastered the calendar, and I'm going to doubt a lot of people have, that you need to start there with your coach. That's the number one fundamental, is how do you manage your day? So to make money, where's your money making activities? And they do it in bold, but they do it really broad. And so this is like a really one-on-one, like I'm going to pick apart your day, and you're going to tell me everything that you've been doing. And we're going to figure out what's making you money and what's not, and what you could leverage out to somebody else for hardly anything. So that's the other thing. If you get to a point of hiring, you're crazy if you don't have a coach, because I get more people who didn't have a coach when they hired that we have to fix the mess they created with their terrible hire than I do people who come in with a great hire and we just go from there. I spend months fixing messes that people hired really badly. So I'll give you that piece of advice.
Katie, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you had, before you got into the MAPS coaching, you had talked about training, and you mentioned something about a mastery listing class.
That's right now called Mega Listing Agent. That's what that one's called in MAPS coaching.
Okay.
And so you can just go to MAPS group coaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, every week I get an update on what ones are launching. But the one that one was a big one that I know a lot of people were looking for, but it's called Mega Listing Agent. So if you just go to the MAPS group coaching, it's not Facebook, it's a website. And you'll see all the group coachings that are up and coming.
And those are just for the MAPS clients?
Nope, those are for everybody.
Really?
MAPS group coaching can be for absolutely anybody. I just happen to have mastery clients in it, but it's for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank
And
you.
if you're not getting those emails, Diane, I get them for the mastery stuff. So I'd be happy to share that. And then I can talk to Denny about making sure we post that stuff on the internal Facebook page too, so you guys get it, if you're not getting those already.
I'm
That's
not
a good
getting
idea.
And there's some kind of problem with the connection with me with Keller Williams. And Lisa tried figuring out, and I don't know what the problem is, but I'm not getting the emails.
Like
Okay.
in your KW email, you're not?
Yep.
I do know this, that I had to I'm a coach, and I had to
Yeah.
resubscribe to the MAPS email. So I don't know why.
Okay. Maybe that's
So,
what,
but I will tell you, like, Brian, I think it's a good idea to just put the launching ones in there,
Yeah.
because you never know when you're going to hit somebody with what they need that month or whatever. So
Yeah, I didn't know. I just started seeing them come through, so I don't know who gets them or who doesn't. So I'll make sure that
Yeah.
we start posting that there. And then the one thing I'll give MAPS a plug on, and just any coaching that I had in my life, was that I learned a lot of stuff through experience, and that's very costly, and it costs way more than learning from other people. So I highly recommended that, to baby step into it, that, based on your budget and what you can afford to do. But you'll be surprised, how quickly you can grow. If you're coachable, you got to be willing to just kind of be vulnerable and let people give you an honest opinion of what's going to help you. So.
Well, and the other thing too, you guys, is we have the overview of what you've got going on in your world. You're in it, right? Like, and you're in it in a messy period of time where you're just trying to survive these ridiculous buyer situations, right? So when we look over from the top, it's like, it's totally different than being in the middle of it, right? So I can see where you're going and what you're running into. I get to say to you and call you out for saying, this is just so hard. This is this. Okay. That's a disempowered victim mindset, right? So yeah, it is. Okay. And what are you gonna do about it? So you have options to go and do about it. Now your coach isn't gonna listen to you just whine about why you can't get your offers accepted. They're gonna ask you, so then what now? What do we need to work on? What skill are you missing that's getting you out scripted? Or, if you don't get a listing, they out scripted you. So if you don't have that skill, then that's probably the first skill you need to work on. If they say to you, I would sell, but okay, you got out scripted if you left that without the listing. So if a FSBO chose not to list with you after you went to their house, you were out scripted. Okay. So that's the first place to start. I got out scripted by a person who's not even in real estate. So I think I need to start there. And so scripts is number one, and everybody hates to do them, and everybody says, I don't want to role play and all that. There's this place, Role Play Rumble. That's not just for mastery, is it, Brian? Do you know?
What was that? The
Role Play Rumble. It's $50 a month, and you have a MAPS coach coaching you with scripts. They come in with scripts, and I think it's daily. I'm not positive, but I can send you the video of the launch of it. But they just launched it, and it's like you go in every day, you get a script, you role play it with a MAPS coach, and then the group role plays together. They go into breakout sessions and they role play together and give feedback to each other. So, and that's just scripting, and there's lots of people signed up for that. So
yeah, I'm not sure on that one, but that's a great one. You got Jan's doing her power hour too, that jump in. I mean, I learned a lot from the other TLs that we do a objection handler for a half hour, and then we go right into calling, where one TL call, or like we pair up into groups, and we just on a Zoom call like this, I put my phone on speakerphone and talk out loud in front, and then after I make that call, he makes it. And I'd tell you, it's helped me tremendously. Part of it was I just needed the confidence that everyone else screws up just as bad as I do. That was a piece of it. And then you just pick yourself up and do it again. But it's I highly recommend it. I know Jan's trying to do that with Power Hour too. So
you guys, the one thing I'll say is that I never see this in our internal page, and it kind of surprises me. Nobody's ever posted in, how are you guys handling this objection from sellers? There's ideas. There's 200. How many agents do we have? 250 or something?
yeah.
So that could give you an objection handler for that. And yet all I ever see is the things that went south. I don't see the things like, how do I get around this so I never have to run into this again? So really evaluate yourself and say, where is my skill level in all the areas of my business? How many of you know how to do a P&L? How many of you know what a P&L is, right?
Actually, we've got,
So-
hey, come to the next team meeting if you don't, because we've got that going on.
P&Ls. I have a lot of mastery clients that started with me that did not ever do a P&L. Okay. So if you're not running your business off of P&L, your CPA probably hates you. But I will say that, when I started doing my P&L, I think he was like, like he was like, this is not the worst ever, as I'm sending over like email after email, and this, So the P&L will change your life, and that's how you determine how you buy things, okay, for your business. So the biggest thing I ever see with agents is I have to spend money to get leads, and I don't have any income. Well, then you didn't earn the opportunity to go buy leads. So your budget will tell you that you can't spend more than a certain percentage on lead generation, and you just sign a contract with Zillow that's above your budget. So why are you going in the red for Zillow when you don't even have enough business to do it? So your P&L tells you whether or not you invest in the things that you want to invest in.
Mhm.
All right, guys, that's my rant. Have an amazing day. And those of you who hung out extra, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you,
It was nice
Kate.
seeing you.
Have a good week, you guys.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Nice seeing your
Bye.
face.
Bye.